He's defeated every champion from every organization the sport of mixed martial arts has ever seen, and retired from the octagon as the biggest draw and the industry's highest paid athlete of all time. And now Chael Sonnen's on podcast1.com. And for that, you're welcome.
What's happening, guys? Happy Friday. We meet again. Joel and I are studioless, and we've made up for that, haven't we, big guy?
Well, as a matter of fact, to tell the audience, because you don't get, I don't think you get enough information when we don't give the people their pod like is planned. We have broken into Miss H's house. Right now, we are in the middle of a caper, and we are in Miss H's house, unauthorized. This is a crime. And we are giving you guys your pod.
I like the word caper, yeah. So what happened, I don't know if you painted that picture well enough. We did not have a studio today. We were a podcast behind. So we've got rented equipment. We needed a location. And you can't just do a podcast from anywhere. I mean, I've got a little office at my house where we can't do it because it's essentially, a four-wall room with nothing in it, which creates an echo. So, Miss H's is the place. Here we are. She's got furniture. We're comfortable. We got the feet up, and we need to leave this as we found it so she doesn't know we were here.
Oh, she'll know. She'll know because even though she doesn't listen, Lad does. Now, Lad will not out us, but he can't tell a lie. Now, I already asked Miss H. We're going to get busted, for sure. We've never, up to this point, got away with anything. And I don't think this is going to be the first time that we do.
How would we possibly get away with it when we just disclosed it on the podcast? I don't know. We were totally trying to get away with it. I just want to get this podcast in the books before she rolls in. Isn't that the goal?
That is the goal. Absolutely. That is the goal.
All right, listen, I got something I want to tell you, a little off the beaten path, and then we'll get back to the show. But I watched a movie last night. It's called Nocturnal Animals. Jake Gyllenhaal. Excellent film. And there's only a couple of ways to really piss me off with a movie where I can't give you 2 thumbs up. And they broke one of my cardinal rules. And the rule is, if I don't understand the movie when it's done, I'm out. I don't want a movie that is like a poem where it is left for interpretation.
What was your movie again? I'm sorry.
Nocturnal Animals. Jake Gyllenhaal.
I did not know nothing about it.
Fair, I'm about to tell you. So it was a great movie. However, I didn't understand when it ended. I didn't understand, one, totally what the premise was. And two, I also didn't get the ending. I had to go online, look it up, and find out that way. But with that said, it was a great time. It was a really great movie, and I think you should see it. Let me ask you this: UFC 208 this Saturday. Holly Holm's the main event, but the co-main event, I think, is what's bringing in the people. Anderson Silva. He's going to be taking on Derek Brunson. For me, that was a weird match when that got announced. I didn't get it from the jump. I liked it, but I didn't get it. Why this fight? But here we are, and Anderson is the underdog, which surprised me a little bit. What do you think?
Well, we talked about that yesterday. I definitely think it's a surprise that Anderson's an underdog. And I said I think Anderson's going to win the fight. I think he's just got too much experience, and he's just too tough. I mean, that's one thing about Anderson Silva. Man, I know that's your nemesis and everything, and goddamn, we were close. But just look at your guys' fight. You beat the living hell out of him for 99.9% of the fight, and somehow he found a way out of there with a win. I thought he won the Bisping fight, to tell you the truth. He put on a hell of a showing against DC on short notice, underweight,
To tell me the truth? What kind of expression is that? Why would I assume you're not going to tell the truth?
What did I even say?
I don't know, but it's redundant. Why would you say to tell you the truth?
I'm not there today for you, but I don't know.
What's the fight that you want to see the most? Am I right in my analysis to say that once Anderson and Brunson get done, a lot of people get up and head out of the arena?
I don't think they'll get up and head out of the arena, but you're dead on. It's interesting that God, I say interesting way too much. Anderson Silva should be the main event. There is a title fight. It's Holly Holm and Jermaine de Randamie. I think I did a pretty good job of saying that. And yeah, This is an interesting card to me. You got Glover. You got the fight of the night's going to be Jim Miller and Dustin Poirier.
Always is.
I mean, that's going to be a great fight. Boch is a little bit undermanned with Jacare.
Yeah, another one that I thought was interesting. Why that matchup? If you're trying to keep Jacare, I mean, Boch is a tough son of a bitch.
When you can't ever.
When you look at the rankings, there is a disparity there. When you have Jacare, who is pining to fight for the title, without question, has been for over a year, and then you have so Jacare wins, he goes for a title. Boch wins, he does not go for a title. When you have matchups like that, sometimes it's weird. When one guy can qualify for a title shot, but the other guy can't. It's not a true semifinal, if you will. And so I just get a little confused. Like, where'd that come from?
Well, I can tell you one thing. Glover's on the card against Jared, and I can't even say his last name. Canoa or Cano? I can't. He's fighting JC. Jared C. I've never heard of the guy.
I have. He's very tough. Yeah, it's a tough fight. And a lot of times you get lost in that. When you haven't heard of one guy and you have in the other, you think, think you've got a mismatch. I don't see a mismatch there skill-wise. I think Glover wins that fight. I don't see a mismatch. JC, as you're calling him, a very tough guy. However, to the point of where do they go from here? Why did this match get made? Also a little bit of a head-scratcher for me.
I'm interested in the card because Anderson Silva's fighting on it. I think you make a great point. Anderson's on the card. I'm going to pay for it. These other fights, I love Holly. It's weird to me to have a championship fight with somebody that lost her last two fights. That's weird to me. Now, we talked about Jake Ellenberger. He's a fan of the show. We said we were going to make up some. I said, if he didn't get a hold of me and tell me who he was fighting, I was going to say things like he's cutting down to 135 to fight Dominic Cruz.
You're going to start a rumor.
I said, Rich Franklin's coming back. He's going to fight Rich Franklin. Rich Franklin he's the only guy I ever know of that once they made weight classes, he got a bunch of catch weight classes. So do you think they called Rich and say, hey, what do you want the weight class to be? He's like, I'll make 192.
Yeah, he did get to do those catch weight fights.
But this just in from Jakey Baby said Sean Shelby will confirm with me this week. He gave me a guy and that guy backed out. And now they're asking a couple others. I said, don't give me a name. My answer is yes. Asked him if he could use that. He said 100%. So there you go. That's absolutely no news.
All right. Good enough.
So today is my father's 103rd birthday. He's not here anymore, but his name was Leonard Supernaw. They called him Sledgehammer Soup. I think Sledgehammer is a cool nickname. He was a concrete worker, and apparently he was just a beast. So they called him Sledge.
Well, happy birthday to your old man.
Sledgehammer Soup. I'll tell you two quick stories about my dad. You always make fun of me because I get up really, really early, even if I don't have to. Well, that was started from the time I remember being on this earth. My dad, he's a concrete finisher. He'd go to work at, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. He would open my door and he would yell, "Bounce, God damn it!" And I would bounce out of bed. I would bounce out of bed. That's where that started at.
That seems like a terribly annoying way to wake up.
It was. It wasn't any fun. And it forever. It went all the way through my high school years. The bounce, God damn it! If I can't sleep, nobody can sleep, is what he used to say. He'd go to all my sports. He would go to all my football games. He'd go to all my wrestling matches. And the only thing he would ask, he thought it was funny, from the time I was, 8 years old and competing in Pee Wee football till they took his voice box out. If I competed, he would ask me, "Have you eaten your mean pills?" And I would say, yeah, I've eaten my mean pills, Dad. So there you go, Dad. Happy 103rd birthday.
Were those positive stories, or were those, hey, my dad was a little bit of a weird guy stories?
I
want to be very respectful to it since you've lost him, but I'm confused. What just happened here? He walk in the room and say, "Bounce, if nobody can sleep, I can't sleep." I mean, that seems a little ridiculous. Well, and there is no such thing as mean pills. It's like the jerk store, George. Doesn't exist. Okay, well there we go. Chael's a little salty today, and we're just gonna roll through it. Those are the two stories I came up with. They're good to me. He'd say, "Bounce, goddamn it," and I'd get up.
As a matter of fact, didn't your dad wake you up really early every day too?
He wasn't any nicer about it in the morning. I never understood it. I never understood. Yeah, hey, there's a couple of ways to wake up. Why would you why do you got to come and tip the mattress over till the kid falls on the floor? I don't get it. I mean, can't you just say, hey, son, it's 7? I mean, couldn't you do that?
We could. I mean, I had a lot of stories about my old man. But I just, I wanted to touch on those today. I didn't want to get, too far into things. But yeah, I think about my dad a lot. And it's just, my sister said it's dad. She said, "Happy birthday, old man, 103." She sent me a text, and I was like, "Is it the 9th?" And she said, "Yes." So, happy birthday, Dad.
All right, hey fans, I could use your help. Go over and take the Podcast One survey. Responses align with appropriate advertisers to this audience. Their survey is short and completely anonymous. It takes no more than 5 minutes. There are 2 easy ways to begin the survey. First is go to podcastone.com/mysurvey, or go to podcastone.com and click on the survey banner. You've filled out the survey in the past. I appreciate it, but I need you to do it again. Help all of us out over here at Your Welcome. A huge favor you'll be doing us if you just go and do the survey. Thank you for supporting the program, and please take time to do the survey.
Now, the Nicky Bones. We usually talk about the Nicky Bones at the end of the Friday episode. Well, the last week I said, man, this is getting close to coming to an end. The picture of me with a bloody lip just went crazy. And man, you guys have done some of your finest work this week. So the Nicky Bones are safe. Now one guy came in, and I could tell he opened up a Twitter account because it was something 8192. And he wrote a great poem like Kyle did last week. And it was right there. It was going to win, but the guys came through with some good stuff, and I said, "Hey, you're not going to win this week." So then he tried to come over the top on me, and he texts you or tweets you or whatever, and basically tattles on me. Well, gangsters don't tattle, man. So you will never, ever, ever get a Nicky Bone by thinking you can tattle on the Godfather.
Who did get the Nicky Bone?
There's several of them coming up right now, Salty Joe. Chris from Salt Lake City, he gets a shout out because he had a past Nicky Bone that I promised him. The Wiz Popke gets one for a bunch of hard work over the last several months. He's like, "Hey, I was right there. So the Wiz gets one. The Story of Glory goes to Bruce Hooper, who is he's a firefighter in London, huge fan of the show. And he's on Facebook. He's on my Facebook all the time, kind of keeping the mob together. Miss H calls my Facebook a three-ring circus, and she's right. It's a little, if you go onto my Facebook, it looks insane.
Who got the Nicky Bone?
Unless you're a fan of the show. So let me get to the Story of the Glory, and I'll get to the Nicky Bones. Bruce, firefighter, he's putting out a fire in a flat in London. That's what they call apartments, I think. They get everybody out of the place. The place is going up in flames. And so now they got everybody out. They have to put the fire out and contain it to make sure it doesn't go anywhere else. Well, the last lady out, he brings out, and she's yelling at him. You have to go into my bedroom and save my glass cock. He thinks that's a little crazy. He finishes doing his job. It gets funny when she files a complaint against him for not going back in to save her glass cock.
Is that a Nicky Bone award?
That is a Nicky Bone award.
For a great story.
Yes. Man, I tell you what, I had 3 of these Nicky Bones. I'm just going to give them to Zach. I'm going to give to Zach Heim at Zheim, Heim 82 for his Trump meme. That was beautiful. At Got Leo, he's a local guy from Portland. And this is brilliant right here. It's short, it's sweet. It's what we're looking for. It's what I'm looking for Nicky Bone. Taylor posted the picture about why is my lip bleeding? And his response was, The tomato can is leaking. At Real Nate Ewing. He certainly didn't hurt himself in the shower, and I'm guessing the high school kid got a shot in before he stole this sweatshirt.
Love it.
So there's your Nicky Bones for the week.
all deserving, actually. Those are very good.
Thank you.
Those are very good. So I'll tell you this: it's weigh-in day. Okay, the guys all got to make weight for UFC 208. I get people that ask me all the time how to cut weight, and people get a little bit lost on that term. You know, fighters, wrestlers, boxers, somebody that has to make a weight. That's a very rare thing in life. To do your job, you have to get on a scale first and weigh a certain amount. These guys can lose immense amounts of weight, 20 pounds in 24 hours, 12 pounds in 6 and 7 hours, 7 pounds in just less than 1 hour. People will hear that, and I get people that will say all the time, put me on that diet. How do you do that? I want to lose 7 pounds in an hour. There's a significant difference between dieting and cutting weight. And trying to explain that to somebody will turn you blue in the face. Anybody that wants information on how to do this right, and Joel, you know, and I know as wrestlers, starting cutting weight when we're 9 years old, going through high school, even going through college, we did not know what we were doing. The tricks that the guys have today, from the baths to the diets to the way to appropriately count calories, the water loads, the salt loads, when to do it, when to pull back. It's a science. And had we known it when we were younger, it sure would have made life a lot more comfortable. If anybody wants to know how to cut weight, how to diet, and then how to cut weight, how to rehydrate in a relatively short period of time so your performance is not affected, get the Ultimate Weight Cut Guide. Go to ultimateweightcut.com. It's a step-by-step guide to cutting weight. They have sample menus, diet plans. This is used by elite athletes. They've got a rehydration plan. You can calculate your target weight zones. UltimateWeightCut.com. Use the promo code BADGUY and you will save 40% off. You're welcome.
Well, this is beautiful. Can we speak on this for a minute?
Go ahead.
This is the first time ever. That is the first time ever I've ever heard of a book, a manual, anything that's going to teach me. We're not talking about losing weight, correct?
Correct.
We are talking about cutting weight for an athlete. Or are we talking about cutting weight for the prom?
Well, anybody that needs to lose weight, but I'm just saying there's two sides to it. You've got your diet where you're getting your weight down, but cutting weight is not the same thing as losing weight. Now, you need to do them in combination if you've got to make a weight for a rare sport like mixed martial arts, like boxing, like wrestling. But as far as losing weight, you've got guides all over the place. They're all a bunch of crap. I mean, it's infuriating me for me to have to listen to nutritionalists. First off, because you can't get two of them to agree. Second off, because there's no certification. Third off, because there's different blood types and there's different food that do different things to different blood types. Joel, I lived through the fat-free era. We are in a fat-free era still to some extent right now. Now nutrition companies, multi-billion-dollar nutritious companies with nutritional departments and experts and research are making money selling people fat. They're putting out supplements that are nothing but fats. Now, I understand that's omegas and a lot of that's fish oils and these different kind of fatty acids. But the bottom line is the health food companies are now selling you fat because the stores are taking fat off of their menu. People need fat, and they don't understand that. You can't get two people to agree on what a calorie is. Is 20 calories of ice cream different than 20 calories of cashews? And if so, tell me why. You cannot get people to explain this. I see parents doing this with their kids all the time. They won't let them have a soda pop because of the sugar, but they'll give them a juice, never once turning the label around and seeing which one has more fructose and which one has more calories. It is absolutely insane. If you look at what was happening in the last 8 years, largely because of the First Lady, to what they did with school lunch, now kids have to go hungry. She cannot prove, and neither can anybody else, that a carrot stick is better for you than a bag of potato chips. And I know people are going to hear this right now and go, what in the hell is that guy talking about? But you can't prove it. You absolutely cannot prove it. And I can prove to you, in many walks of life, depending on the amount of exercise somebody's doing, depending on how many calories they're putting out, I could prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt that they need the potato chips in front of the 2 calories, negative calories, if you want to talk about how much your digestive system is going to burn from eating the carrot sticks. Nutrition is the most ridiculous scam in America that I'm seeing right now. And don't look any further than the first example I just gave you. The health supplement companies are now selling people fat because people aren't getting their fats anywhere else. But everybody wants to hear this and go, well, no, I don't need fats. Yes, you do. You need oils. You need fats. You don't know what in the hell you're talking about. Not everybody needs to lose weight. Some people need to gain weight. I can think of plenty of sports where they do. Joel, they do the same thing with exercise, where people tell you how you have to have exercise and how important it is. But if I tell them to prove to me why is that true that a person needs exercise? They're stuck in the mud. Well, I don't know. Exercise is a good thing. Well, yeah, you can say that, but where's your limits? Where's your tipping points? I can point to you right now, right outside of this door of Miss H's house. I can point to you to 5, 6, 7, a dozen guys that now have bad knees because of exercise they've done. A lot of them are high school football players, but a lot of them have injuries now that they sustained during exercise. So where did this whole exercise is the greatest thing in the world come from? There is a balance on all of it. There's a balance of diet and there's a balance of exercise. And these people that come out and they act like they know what they're talking about, they don't. If you want to know how to do it, you want to know how to do it right, get the Ultimate Weight Cut Guide. Go to ultimateweightcut.com. I can't be any clearer on this. This is cheap as can be, and if you use the promo code Bad Guy, you're going to save another 40%. But people don't know what they're talking about. I'm watching parents poison kids on one hand, and I also watch parents make kids, do without certain pleasures in life, and they do it because they think that they know nutrition, and they don't.
All right,
turn the TV off. Quit listening to the first lady that cut food from our schools, so now kids have to have 460 calories instead of 580 calories, and they have to go home hungry.
Here's what I'm going to do. And I've disclosed where I'm at. I'm in the 70s, hopefully breaking into the 60s next week. I'm going to buy that.
I think you're talking 270 headed for 260.
Yes.
And good for you. And you will do it. I'm not teasing you on weight. You are great at losing weight, but you do gain weight quickly.
God damn, I do. Well, at my age, I looked at it and I was like, no, what did I do? Well, I gained 10 pounds a month, and I should have. For what I was doing to what I started doing again, I should have gained 10 pounds a month. But I'm going to put this to the test. When I say I'm going to fight a giant in June or July, I tell you what, it's a lot easier to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go to the gym. Because now it's not, should I go to the gym? It's, you've got to go to the gym. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to go on to this. What's it? One more time?
UltimateWeightCut.com.
UltimateWeightCut.com, and I'm going to do it for 28 days religiously. I'm going to follow it, and I'm going to let you know how it works out.
Now, you did say when you fought Wes Sims, you slipped in another parameter for yourself. You said you wanted to weigh 206 pounds when you did it. Is that still your target weight? Because I think that's a little bit low. I'd like to see more about 2.25.
I will weigh 206 pounds when I fight Wes Sims.
All right. You don't feel that's a little bit low? Wes is going to come in there about 300?
Well, 300? I mean, doesn't he have to be a certain weight?
Well, he's got to weigh in for the weight class, but you don't forget it's 24 hours in advance. I heard from Wes on this. Wes sent me a funny text. He said, typical dirty promoter announcing a fight before it's on the books. Then he said, LOL dash. I'll be out of town in July. Just get me a date.
Yeah, he tapped me out in 27 seconds. Wes ain't got nothing to worry about.
I'll tell you, every time you tell that story, you got tapped out a little bit faster. I thought it was 31 seconds. You corrected me to 29. I heard you on the phone with Ladd yesterday. It was 28. Now you just told everybody it's 27.
Well, you know what's funny?
I think that match keeps... generally, over time, a person's performance gets better. We get better over time. You've made it worse for yourself each time you tell this story.
I'm going to be 206. If he's 300, he's 300. I mean, it's about pride. I didn't feel like I fought last time. So yeah, but no, my plan's to weigh 206 pounds. It's the same thing I did. It's the same thing when I decided to fight. I was 280, 285, and God, it was an ugly 285, if you remember. And I went to the auction, and I found the biggest dude I could find. His name's Mark Groom. And I said, hey, you want to get down? And he said, yeah, I want to get down. And I said, okay. I was actually upset that he said yes. I was like, how dare you?
But imagine being him. What's he going to say no? I mean, a guy just walked up to him in his world. He's a car guy. He's at a car auction. You walked up to him and challenged him.
Yeah, and so I did the same thing. I lost a gang of weight, and and I got in there. And so we'll do it again. So, yeah, that's my goal. 206 pounds when me and Wes dance.
You know, I read an article earlier, and I wish I knew who had said this. I wish I knew who had said this, but they had made a comment that they don't like where the sport is going of MMA. They're saying that the industry is leaning towards big fights and stars as opposed to, coming in from a competitive nature and just finding out who the best is. And I could get where the athlete would make that assertion. I could get where he would feel that way. But he needs to understand that is where it's going. This is a business. They are putting things on television. You know, so many of these athletes lose sight of this, and it's very hard to explain to them. But it's like, guys, this is a television show. Whether it's on pay-per-view or whether it's on free TV, this is a show, and you're essentially being treated in the pay scale, in the opportunity scale, in the placement on the card as an actor. Your contracts are very similar. As a matter of fact, Hollywood agents have now gotten involved. As a matter of fact, Hollywood agents have now purchased the UFC. The same thing goes on over at Bellator. We are owned by Viacom. So as much as we are a sport, we are owned by TV guys that are looking to put out products that draw in dollars and ratings, and that is how they're able to move forward and hold the shows. So I do get where this athlete is coming from, but he's got to reprogram his mind. And so many people, Joel, are not understanding, no matter how clear and obvious it is, they're not understanding what's happening here. And for a fighter to go out and have a goal to be undefeated, or to be the world champion. What a great goal. What absolutely great goals to have. But that should not be your ultimate goal. Your ultimate goal should not be the champion of the world. If you're looking at this from a career standpoint, if you're coming in from a competitive architecture, you're a guy that's never going to complain, you're never looking at the numbers, you're not trying to turn this into a business, fine. But I don't know any of those guys. I don't know a single guy out there. So an athlete's ultimate goal should not be to be champion. It shouldn't even be to be the main event. Your ultimate goal should be that the outcome of your match does not matter. When you get into a spot where the outcome of your match no longer matters, you are still going to headline a show, you are still going to sell out arena, and you're still going to be the highest paid guy on the card, that's when you've made it. That is the ultimate, not that belt. I could point out champion after champion and tell you what their contracts are. I could then bring guys in that are not champions, show you what their contracts are, and you go, oh my goodness. And now you'd be faced with a real spot. If I really put your feet to it and said, what would you rather have? The belt or this guy's contract? Most guys are going to say the belts because most guys are competitors. I fully get that. But I'm just saying now all of a sudden you have a discussion here. And eventually that race is ran. And eventually that belt is going to sit in your closet collecting dust. You either are going to have something that you can drive for the future or you're not. You know, it's like people believe that hate is the opposite of love. Hate is not the opposite of love. Hate is a strong emotion, much like love. The opposite of love is indifference. If you're in a relationship and that girl breaks up with you and she hates you, you've still got a chance. If she is indifferent and just simply does not care one way or the other, it's over.
Listen, I'm glad you bring that up because now we're talking about the sport has changed. And it hasn't. It hasn't changed in terms of what it takes to be successful. But it has changed in terms of what people are looking for. The fans, the paying fans. So now you're saying, and I agree with you, Damian Maia came out and said, you know, be careful, UFC. You're starting to.
I think Maia is the guy I'm quoting here. When I said I couldn't remember who it was, I was gonna say I think it was Maia.
Where he
but
said,
I'm not positive.
He said, you know, the UFC is starting to be too much like the WWE. And I said, I'm thinking to myself, well, they're two separate things. One's fake. Okay, one is completely fake and one's completely real. But the reality is, who cares? If it interests me and a bunch of other people, then it's marketable. Do it. If it's safe, do it. It doesn't matter. What you're saying is the fighter needs to change the way he's looking at things and say, okay, there's the fight side of this thing and there's the business side of this thing. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I am saying that. And what I'm saying is if you think that you're going to do a push and a pull with the bosses and the leadership, if you think you're going to convince them that pure sport over entertainment is better business, first off, they're not going to respect you because that's ridiculous right out of the gate. And secondly, you're going to be left behind. Fighters need to reprogram the way they're thinking. I was sharing with you yesterday the piece of advice I gave the young man on the East Coast that called and said, look, I'm doing everything right and I'm waiting for my phone call. And I said, rethink this. Do everything right and then be the one that makes the phone call. Fighters have got to rethink the way they're doing this, and they've got to start with some smaller goals. They need to have goals to work onto a main card. They need to have a goal to work into the main event. These are the things that they need to do. If you can get to a championship and all of these different byproducts, this stuff is cherries on top of the sundae. But how do you get there? And some of them think instead of running 5 miles every morning, I need to start running 6. It's like, guys, come on. First thing you need to do is get in front of the media. You should all have goals to be on SportsCenter. If that is not on your goal list, you don't understand what in the hell we're doing here. You should all have goals to have your own T-shirts, to be in front of the cameras, to be making headlines. You know, a couple of guys that are starting to understand this. Eddie Alvarez, for one. And it finally got revealed to him. He was a sportsman and a competitor forever. Once he won that championship and started to understand some of the media opportunities that opened up and started to see what those opportunities led to, then he started to get it. Michael Chandler. Over in Bellator, another guy. He's got to the championship. There ain't anybody out there that can beat him. But he's starting to understand, man, that's not enough. Joe Warren, another one of these guys, starting to understand it's not enough. And one thing they all have in common is they're veterans. They're a little bit older. They've been around and they've seen it. This needs to start happening with the young guys. You need to start grabbing the young guys. Let me give you a great example. Dan Lambert out at the ATT. He's got a coach named Conan Silveira. Conan made it mandatory because what the ATT was doing, American Top Team, is they were bringing in guys primarily from Brazil, getting them visas, bringing them over, training them in the sport. And what Conan made his guys do, they've got to be at practice twice a day, but guess what they have to do in the evening 3 days a week? They have to take English classes. Mandatory. Because he's saying if you're going to come over and work in a North American company that is focused on entertainment, you have to be able to speak to your audience. You have to be able to tell them when you're fighting, who you're fighting, where they can tune in, how they can buy tickets, and most importantly, why they should care. He has mandatory 3 days a week, they got to take English classes. And you've seen over the years what the ATT has done. They've come a very long way. They've got world championships. They're on every single card, 2 and 3 guys deep every show. But a lot of people don't understand why. And a lot of it is because of Coach Conan's premise that he put out about 5 years ago. And he makes the guys understand we're doing more here than just punching and kicking at one another.
There's a two-sided blade, though, what you're talking about here. And again, I'm sitting next to a guy that has done absolutely almost everything in this business, and I'm a guy that's done nothing in it. But I do know about it. I do know about it. I have a keen eye for it. I've watched it grow, and I've also learned about our audience. Our audience, there's a lot of fighters that listen to us. Man, you can't be 0-0 and think you're ready to go. You know, you no matter how the way it is now, or it's all about your pro record, and you got to go out and win 7 or 8 fights. You got to go win 7, 8 fights before anybody's going to look at you. Before you have that mark, you can be thinking about these things, but they're not real. For Ricky should be in a big show right now, and that is real. And the guys listen to this show and they think I'm beating them up, man. If you're 0-0, you need to get some fights in first, then take the gangster's advice. But you got to get those fights in. You got to get those W's. Without it, it's a plan. Do you hear what I'm saying? I mean,
I hear exactly what you're saying. I don't think you laid out why you're saying it. I happen to know because you and I were talking about this in the car the other day. But you had met a fighter who you care about. We'll leave his name out of this. But you had asked him if he was going to fight. And he had commented to you, well, that's not the kind of fight I want. And it's like, hey, listen, when you're on the lower level, the only thing that matters is your record. Whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent, the only thing that matters is getting out there and getting these matches in. And some of them are going to be tough, and some of them are going to be medium, and some of them are going to be light. But you need to go out there and get those matches and build that record up. And quite frankly, if you can't win those fights, then let's just find out right now.
It's a hobby. It's like me. It's a hobby.
But Joel, if your goal is to get into Bellator, your goal is to get into the UFC, get into that octagon, fight on live TV, fight on pay-per-view, whatever your goal is, you do need to be real fair with yourself that, listen, if I'm ducking and dodging guys on the lower scene for whatever reason, whether I don't have the courage or I don't have the skills to beat it, well, then you don't belong in there. You just don't belong in there. So take your oars out of the water, get in the gym and do what it takes to get there, or stop with the dream. But if you're ducking and dodging guys, man, you're just in the wrong business. And once guys get into the business, and here's my message. I feel like I already made it, but I want to make it again. They've got to reprogram themselves. Hollywood agents are now running the business. On the other side where I'm at, Viacom is running the business. They're not looking to find out who the best is. They're looking to generate revenue and move the company down the line. Now, that's not to say that skills don't matter. That's not to say that ranking systems don't matter. What it is to say is you need to embrace the other side of it. And once I see a fighter, and we'll use Maia by example, and I'm not positive he's the guy that gave the quote, but he believes that. I've heard other things that he says. I'll use Maia by example. You've got a guy that's absolutely fantastic, who recognizes what it is that they're looking for and looking to promote, who recognizes that regardless of his own wins and losses, he has been a little bit stuck in the mud and lost in the shuffle. And even while recognizing it, he is resisting doing what he acknowledges needs to be done. Damian Maia should have a goal in 2017 to be on SportsCenter and figure out how he's going to get there. Damian Maia should have a goal in 2017 to be on Jim Rome's show and figure out how to get there. And instead, I believe he's trying to figure out how he's going to sweep his next opponent and set up his rear naked choke. Those are good things. Those sweeps and those rear naked chokes are good things, but don't leave out the other side of it. Don't leave out the lesson that we learned from Conan Silveira making his entire team 3 days a week mandatory go and learn English because he felt that it made them more marketable. And he's exactly right, but there's lessons there, and some of these lessons are never told. Conan shared this with me at a coffee shop in England alone. And I'm thinking, Conan, you need to go out and tell the whole world this because you're spot on. You're making a great message for these guys. When I look at somebody like Maia, it's like, Damian, you do everything right. You're a likable guy. You're a straight-up gangster. But you're now pointing your finger at something that you're acknowledging needs to be done to push you into the opportunities that you want, and then you're not doing it. You know, you and I talk about Ben Askren on here a lot. But one thing that Ben Askren had, and he had it from the time he was 24 years old and he was headed to Beijing for the Olympics and he was going to put the chin in China. That was the single greatest marketing thing amateur wrestling has ever seen. And it hasn't been duplicated because as soon as Ben got done, he took his marketing into mixed martial arts. He's now 12 or 13-0, 14-0. He's completely undefeated. He's the champion of every organization he touched. But he understands, I need to get my name out there more. I'm fighting over in Asia, but I'm trying to win over a North American audience. I've got to convince these people. He has small goals in mind of how he's going to do that. And then he follows them. And some of these athletes that are feeling that they're being lost in the shuffle because they're not charismatic enough or they're not outspoken enough, man, they've all got something, but they've got to figure out it all starts with a goal. And if when you're putting your goal list together, being on SportsCenter isn't there, talking to Jim Rome isn't there, you're out of your mind. You know, the first time I talked to Rome's biggest sports guy in the nation, has been for like 17 years. He's been at number one. Was at number 2 for 3 before that. Biggest sports guy in the country, without a question. First time I went on Jim Rome, Vice President of PR for the UFC drove me over there, Jen Wink. She said to me, Chael, you're the second athlete ever from the UFC to be on Rome. The first athlete ever was Brock Lesnar, and he got 2 minutes and 36 seconds. She had the exact time down. Brock Lesnar got 2 minutes and 36 seconds. When I went on Rome, I got 4 minutes and 34 seconds. These are wins, but these are numbers that people don't ever think of. you need to get on those shows, and then you want to be on there long. You want to be 2 segments. These are the kinds of goals that you need to have. There's all sorts of records out there, and the ultimate one is to have that 12-pound gold belt. But another great record is to have the North American live attendance record. It's to have the gate revenue. It's to have the pay-per-view record. It's to sell more merchandise than anybody. These are all goals. They're all meaningful. They're all quantifiable. And they've got to be considered by these athletes. And the top athletes understand that, and they embrace it. And I can point to some real hammers out there, Joel, that made a ton of money, but they left just as much on the table. Anderson Silva is one of those guys. Anderson Silva, once he became the UFC champion, was able to get pay-per-view points built into his contract. That's policy by the UFC. This is unadvertised and people don't know it, but I'll reveal it for him now. If you win that strap, they are going to bring you into Las Vegas, sit you down, tear up your contract, and offer you a new one that includes pay-per-view points. As soon as you lose that belt, you will lose that clause. But that's how they look after guys. That's how they take care of their champions and incentivize guys to do this. So Anderson Silva was in that spot because don't forget, he won the championship his second fight in. His first fight was Chris Lieben. His second fight was Rich Franklin when he put Rich's nose over by his ear and left there with the belt. So he was in on pay-per-view points from the jump, but he's got to meet certain thresholds. And Anderson would barely meet his thresholds. So his pay-per-view bonus would be so low at times. Sometimes they'd be 7 figures, but sometimes they would be so incredibly low. It's because he refused to do the media. And he's sitting back and going, well, I'm wildly successful. Who's anybody to tell me? I'm making 7 figures. I'm the champion. I'm on the top of the bill. And you're going, yeah, Anderson, but the arena isn't sold out. The pay-per-views numbers suck. And you are the guy with the greatest skill. So let's combine the two. Let's go out and talk to the media. Let's not pretend we don't understand English. Let's not go spend an extra 2 hours in the gym to try to grow our career when you could go spend 40 minutes on somebody's couch telling the world why you're interesting. Now, he gets to choose his path, and he may be happy with his choice. But for me to critique him and say that he left an equal amount of money on the table as he made is an accurate depiction of the history of his career. Now, the choice is his. However, he doesn't get to come out and complain after the fact. If he wants to be like an Eddie Alvarez, like a Michael Chandler, we're seeing it with the Big Ferg, Tony Ferguson, who's getting out there, being charismatic, working the gimmick.
Big Ferg?
Big Ferg.
Big Ferg.
Then these are the guys that are going to have a spot and they're going to be remembered, but their goals are a little bit different. The Ben Askren approach, a little bit different goals.
I tell you, one person right now who is the toughest man on the planet, his name is Stipe. Now, Stipe, he doesn't need to be anybody he's not. He just needs to let everybody know who he is, who is a hard-working, loyal, badass. He doesn't need to sing and dance for anybody, but he's got to figure out a way to get out there. Right now, we don't know where he's at because he's pissed off with the money he's making. I think that's a guy that you're kind of speaking on is don't change. You don't have to change who you are. You just have to figure out how you can get that message out there. He came on the show 2 times, both times within 24 hours of winning and defending his world championship. Great guy, but not everybody knows about him.
Yeah, no, that's an absolute reality. Look, one of the hardest things that you can do in the world, one of the hardest things to do is to have people be interested in you. It's one of the hardest things. And some guys are going out and they're crafting their media presence and how they're going to go about it. And some guys are adopting characters or personas. Some guys are going to make it with that, but it's a very low amount. These guys are not good enough actors to be on point. I've seen guys, you and I gave Ben Rothwell a hard time on the show because he had a scripted promo. He dropped it on John Anik, and he should have walked out of the ring. It was a good promo. He scripted a very nice couple of lines. He hit them, but then Anik gave him a follow-up question. Rothwell was not prepared for the follow-up question, so he had to drop the shtick. He had to drop the body language. He had to drop the tone that he was speaking in. He had to drop the merits of all of it and then just go back to being Ben Rothwell, and he wasn't ready for that. And our critique of it was simply, if you have something prepared, drop the mic and walk out. If you're in a character. Now, if you're being yourself, and this would be my second piece of advice, just be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to be The Rock. Don't try to be Stone Cold. Don't try to be Connor. Be yourself, but then turn it up. These guys are very interesting, and they've got very interesting stories. Some of them get too shy to tell their story. And they're like, look, I just want to fight. I just want to fight. It's like, well, I know that you keep saying I just want to fight. But where you're going to fight and how you're going to be compensated for that is directly related to how many people are interested in you. So before you say, I'll see guys, Joel, go to press conferences, showed up in suits, and when they finally get a question thrown to them, they'll say, I just want to fight, or they'll say, I don't care, or they'll say, we'll see what happens on Saturday. Well, or they'll say, here, this is a great one. This is actually my favorite. When their opponent says something and their rebuttal is, he's just talking. Well, it's a press conference, you dumb son of a bitch. What do you think we're doing at a press conference? What do you think that term means? Why do you think we're sitting here in suits with the media in front of you asking us questions and microphones? Why do you think you didn't show up with your mouthpiece and your gloves? This isn't the fight. This is the press conference. Well, he's just talking. Well, that's what he should be doing. He should be talking, and he should be making people interested. This is 101. And the fact that we're having to come out here and tell this to a guy like Damian Maia, who's a veteran, who's been around, who's on a streak, so many I can't even count. What's he won? 8 of his last 9 or something stupid? Over hammers. Absolutely hammers.
Same position, too.
Yeah, and it's like,
same
Damian,
position, too.
You're a veteran. You should be sitting where I'm sitting right now, teaching this to the next group. You should be looking at it and saying, hey, guys, here's where the sport's going. This is what I've observed. And I'm going to be like Conan Silveira, and I'm going to make my guys and my students, along with learning their arm bars and their guillotines, their little jabs and their little kicks, I'm going to make them learn how to be a little bit more exciting, how to look somebody in the eye when they ask you a question, how when you show up to a press conference, you have something prepared. I used to go to press conferences, Joel, and people would say to me after, they go, well, a lot of people are saying that you had that prepared before you came in. I'm thinking, why in the hell would I show up to anything that I know about in advance and not prepare? I would never go into a test in school without reading the book the day before. Never. If I'm going into a press conference, I'm going to have things to say. If I'm going into a fight, I'm going to go in with my combative skills as sharp as I can get them. Of course it's prepared.
You are on fire today, and I want to stand out of your way most of it. But I tell you what, I think there's a Smokey in the chicken coop, and they just announced. You said Ben Rothwell. They just announced Ben Rothwell against Verdum. That is getting ready to be an interim title fight for UFC 211. They made that fight for Verdum to accept that fight when he's come out and said, I'm waiting for the championship. I'm waiting for the championship. For him to accept that fight, he knows something we don't, and they've let him know something that we don't.
All right, so, and I'm going to disagree, and I guess we'll have to find out over time. But I think the position that Verdum's in, nobody's looking to do him a favor right now. I don't think that they want to put a belt around Rothwell. Why would you make that an interim? Is something going on with the heavyweight championship that there needs to be an interim?
Stipe's not fighting. Stipe's in a contract dispute.
Okay, but has Stipe officially been, and this part I'm not arguing, this part, educate me. Has Stipe officially been offered a fight and he has said no? Because that's not what I heard. I heard he was just saying, hey, let's get this figured out.
I will not speak on that because I do not know. And, well, I mean, he's a heavyweight champion. It's been a minute since he's fought, even though he went back-to-back to, I believe, back. He even, after he won the championship, he came out real quick and fought in his hometown and was the underdog. So I've watched this tape play over and over and over again, and with this interim belts, and that's my call on that. I do see that happening.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and there is a little bit of there. I can see where that would happen. Look, if you're a promoter, you're going to be a little hesitant to put Rothwell in that spot. If you're a promoter and Verdum is coming out and being outspoken against you, you're going to be a little hesitant to give him that opportunity. Now let's look at the other side of the coin. Those are two straight-up killers. Ben Rothwell has earned that shot. I thought he earned the shot the second he got Josh Barnett to tap. You can never disagree with Verdum. You could make an argument that he's the greatest heavyweight to have ever done it. So, if your heavyweight champion you're having trouble with in the office, getting a piece of paper signed. If Cain Velasquez is his own worst enemy, and you never know when he's going to show up. If JDS, and frankly, I don't know what in the hell's been going on with JDS or where he is. Orlovsky, not there. Overeem already had the opportunity. If that's how you're looking at it, you would need to put that belt on somebody. Well, Travis Brown, what's going on with him? I don't know. Derek Lewis, is he going to be ready? Probably not. Who's this new guy that Dana was so excited about? I'm picturing him in my head, but I can't pronounce his name. Yeah, Nagano. You know, and Clayton's big on him too. Clayton also thinks he's going to be champion. You have to do something. So I think there's some legs there. But if we're to make a little gentleman's bet, and time will tell, I'm going to say that's not for the interim belt.
All right. Well, there you go. Now there was some news that came out this week. We were kind of going back and forth in the 30 seconds we had before we started this. Is they are going to use, now I don't know how exactly it's going to work, but they are going to start using instant replay in the UFC.
What does that mean? What is it that would need replay? There is no scoring system. There's got to be a reason. So tell me what it is, but there is no scoring system. In football, you do an instant replay, but it could mean a first down, it could mean 6 points, it can mean it's time to punt.
Okay, what in
the hell do you need an instant replay? Hey, did that punch land? I mean, who calls for the instant replay? The referee? It seems like the judges are the only ones that need to see anything.
I think the judges would have to. I can't. The two examples that I gave.
Well, there's no way a judge could do it. A judge is the only one that needs to see anything, but a judge can't just raise his hand and go, "Hey, let's take a look at that again."
Okay, but you asked.
Be the ref,
you
right?
asked why. The two examples when I got hot and said, "Why don't we have instant replay?" It takes 3 or 4 seconds to look at it to see what happened. Jake Ellenberger getting caught in a cage. That fight should have continued or been a no contest right there on the spot. And the second one was Donald Cerrone being out, the ref calling it out, and then going to his corner and coming back and fighting again.
Okay, but here's what I'm asking you. What in the hell do you need to see an instant replay for? You take one look over at Donald. If his eyes are glassed over, if he's not walking on his own, if he's not cognizant, you stop the fight. Do you really have to go back and replay it and see where he was 5 seconds ago? Can't you just look at him in present time in between rounds and decide if you're going to send him out or not? That's what I'm asking. Where does this replay come in? If I'm a viewer and I'm at home watching a fight, are they going to stand down in the middle of action to run something back and look at it when no points are going on the board anyway? There's got to be a reason. There's got to be an answer, and I'm sure it's a very good one, and it will probably win me over to the instant replay. But as you're sharing with me right now, and I'm just picturing it as a guy in his living room watching, what in the hell is it that I need to see?
Okay, here's a perfect example. We spoke on it last week or the week before. Asuncio and Sterling fight. The ref doesn't see Sterling get kicked in the nuts. The fight goes on. They go to instant replay. They will see right there, just like that, he got kicked in the nuts.
Okay, fine point by you, but it brings me back to my original. Who's calling for the instant replay? So if Sterling goes, hey, look, I got kicked in the nuts, the referee then steps in and says, well, let's take a look at that. Because if the referee does take a look at it and he wasn't kicked in the nuts, now you've got a guy that just called a timeout. There is no timeouts in this sport. Hey, timeout, I'm hurt. That's the entire objective of the sport, is to hurt the guy so that he needs a delay. Whether that delay is 1 second or 1 week, if he needs a delay, the fight is over. That's what his opponent is trying to do. So would it be the referee thinks he hurt a shin bone, hit the cup, and therefore he steps in and calls a time? What are you talking about?
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do some homework, boss. I'm going to do some homework, and I'm going to have those answers for you next week.
But let's just guess. Don't I pose to you a very interesting problem with the instant replay? Every sport that we know that has an instant replay, from tennis to wrestling to football, it's because there's a point system involved. Hey, should have that been points or should that not have? Hey, was that guy down or was he not? Those are relevant things. I'm just asking for you, off the top of your head, let's speculate real fast before we have the answers. Because if we have the answers, it's going to be pretty clear to us. So, but what are we missing here? What would you need to run back in a fight when there is no point system, when there is no down system, when there is no punt in place? What in the hell is it that you need to see a second time?
Pokes versus punches. If a guy gets poked versus a punch, you could see that. If guy. There's pokers out there. John Jones is a poker. he's known to poke people. So a guy gets he pokes you first. The ref says no. Pokes me again. Now it should be a point. The ref doesn't call it. The fighter's like, man, he just poked me. Let's look at that. There's one.
All right, I love it. That's a great example. So now let me ask you the adverse to that. Let's say a fighter says I was poked. They run an instant replay and he wasn't. It was a clean shot and he was hurt and had to call timeout. There are no timeouts in this sport. Do you remember Matt Hughes went through this? Every fight, Matt Hughes would claim he was poked in the eye. He would call timeout and the referee would step in and give it to him. The problem, per the rules, is an athlete cannot call timeout. He cannot do it. If he calls timeout and says, I need a break, I'm hurt, that is the exact same thing as if he's in an arm bar and says, hey, give me a break, stop the position, I'm hurt. It's the same thing if he's getting ground and pounded. It means the fight is over. That's the entire point of this. And where Matt Hughes, where he had people complaining, it wasn't the referee stepping in and saying, whoa, time, you got poked in the eye. Whoa, time, you got kicked in the nuts. I want to take a second here. It was Matt Hughes calling the action that the referee had not seen. And fight after fight, time after time, the referees gave it to him. And it was a contradiction of the rules, which is, I'm trying to hurt you. And if you say stop, you just surrendered. That's what the entire point is. So it's a very fair criticism that the critics gave more to the referees of Matt Hughes' contest. Matt Hughes has every right to get every benefit that he can. But the referees that would concede and give him a timeout. So let's say we go watch an instant replay. It was totally fair, but the guy said stop. If the guy says stop, the contest is over.
Okay. What about tap, no tap? That could be one. I didn't tap. Yes, you did. Saw it right here. You're out.
Great. And so what happens in that situation? The referee would restart it in the same position. I don't expect you to have answers for these questions. I just as this develops and
Sure.
as we're going to find answers and give them to our audience, these are some of the things that we need to be able to answer. What happens if a guy says, I did not tap? What happens in that situation?
I don't know.
In my fight with Tito tapped, meaning he took his hand and he tapped it. Was he tapping out? I don't believe that with any part of my being. As much as the kids on the internet want to break down that video and try to say, I didn't think he did. If I don't think he did, I think I should have the final word on that because I want him to be tapping.
Absolutely.
When Randy Couture fought Tito, without question, Randy Couture tapped. Do you remember that?
He tapped
They're
him on his
upside down.
ass.
He took an open hand and he spanked Tito. But he spanked him 3 times with an open hand. So I would ask you, what's a tap?
There you go.
It is an open hand up and down 3 times. But that wasn't Randy's intentions. Big John saw that. Big John didn't call that. Would you do an instant replay for that? And then what would you do in that situation? I just think there has to be some room. Don't forget, controversy creates cash. There's nothing better in this sport than controversy. And a lot of that does come down to a referee who is a human being making a judgment call on the fly and people looking at it after the fact and saying, hey, that shouldn't have been done. Now, whether you rematch it or you just use it for conversation in the future, there is a benefit to having that. And it's much like the chains in football. It's not a perfect science, but if it's happening for both sides over the same duration, in theory, and I think that we can all agree that theory has proved to be very true, it does even out. Did this guy get an extra yard here? Yeah, sure he did. But did he lose a yard 20 minutes later? Yeah, sure he did. The other team pick up a little bit of ground and lose a little? Yeah, sure. The chains are very fair. So a referee, I think it's a pretty fair thing. And I've never got where judges and referees are getting together and trying to take out responsibility for themselves. There were judges that have wanted to have replay forever. And we're all sitting back as athletes going, guys, you have the best seat in the house and you have one job, which is to watch the action. So if anything is getting past you, that's a problem for you. And now with the monitor situation where they can also look down at the monitor, so they can look up and they can look down at the monitor, and now you're saying you still want to deflect some responsibility. There was a push for a while, Joel, where the judges wanted the referee to give them a signal signifying there was a catch. This was for submissions specifically. They wanted to judge what's known as catch positions stronger than submissions that go for the way it is right now. If you go for a submission and you don't get it, it doesn't count. Okay, it's like a perfect punch that's thrown. If it doesn't land and hurt the guy, it doesn't count. But there was a push at one point, as ridiculous as this may sound to you, by the judges where they wanted the referee to signal to them when, in his opinion, there was a catch, and then they could jot that down differently. And all of us fighters in the back that are entrusting our career with these guys are saying, anybody that's on board with it, get them the hell out right now. We're not going to entrust them with our careers, and we're going to file petitions with any commission that tries to assign them. Because what you're having is a coward who's trying to deflect responsibility. And then if there is a catch, whatever in the hell that even means, if there is a catch, but the referee doesn't signify it, they then not only don't have to award that differently, they can't award that differently. So once again, it's a deflection of responsibility.
Well, I think what we have here is somebody for instant replay and somebody against, and I'm going to see if I can find out all the I will find out all the particulars this weekend, and next weekend or next week I will speak on it.
Yeah, and I'll share this with you real quick because I want to reserve the right to change my mind. I may love this instant replay. I just don't know much about it. I'm just saying, as a guy that hasn't read the rules or why this got put in place, if I'm a viewer and I'm sitting at home, I don't want my entertainment obstructed, and I feel that instant replay could do that. Now, I may change my mind and go, oh, no, this instant replay is adding to my experience. I haven't actually formed an opinion on it. I'm just a guy that's saying, without a points in place, without a call that could be ran back and change the outcome, what is the need for instant replay? That's my question. If there is an answer to that, then I don't want to be in on the naysay boat. I don't know where I'm at. All right, guys, here's what you do. UFC 208 is this weekend, and Fedor versus Mitrione. Fedor versus Matt Mitrione is 1 week away. There's never been a better time to be a sports fan. Go to BetDSI. Get yourself an account right now. You put up $50. Use the promo code BADGUY, one word, BADGUY. They will match your $50. Now you got $100 on the books. BetDSI will then email you a promo code. You take that to badguyinc.com. Pick out any 2 t-shirts you want. BetDSI buys them for you, and they ship them to you. There is no fine print. You will never get out a credit card. Your $50 and the promo code BADGUY get you $50 and 2 free t-shirts. I love BetDSI.com, but I love kicking their ass even more. Until next time, Joel, give me a final prediction. Anderson Silva or Derek Brunson?
Anderson.
And on the main event, Holly Holm? Really?
Yep.
Really? Coming off the 2 losses?
I want Holly to win.
You want Holly to win?
A bet with my heart.
I'm actually with you on both of those picks, but I thought based on what you said earlier, you would go opposite. BetDSI taking action. I'm telling you, if you win some money, parlay that next week. I would love to give you my opinion on Mitrione and Fedor, but I will be calling that fight live on Spike TV, so I've got to stay the heck out of it. Until next time, for Joel, I'm Chael Sonnen, and you, of course, are welcome.
Thanks for listening to You're Welcome with Chael Sonnen. Download new episodes every week at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com.
The Forbes interview just hit, featuring the king of podcasting, Adam Carolla. And we just launched the Forbes Under 30 podcast, where we talk to young entrepreneurs, hosted by me, Steve Goldblum.
It's interesting because when you're a creator, that never leaves you. You always have this urge to want to create.
That's Martellus Bennett, the Super Bowl-bound tight end of the New England Patriots, our first guest. Tune in and hear more about all his creative endeavors. Subscribe to Forbes Under 30 on iTunes now, and be sure to give it a rating and a review.
Stay tuned for the latest AP News headlines from Podcast One right after this.
AP Update, I'm Ross Simpson. Folks in the Northeast are digging out from under the worst snowstorm of the winter. Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker says winds associated with the storm will continue blowing and creating problems for residents of the Bay State, especially those along the coast.
The wind gusts will result in widespread snowdrifts even after the snow has stopped falling, so please remember to exercise serious caution even after the storm has moved through. Parts of the South Coast, the South Shore, and the Cape and Islands are seeing the worst of the wind and, in some cases, the worst of the snowfall.
Connecticut Governor Daniel Malloy says state troopers have responded to hundreds of calls for help from stranded motorists.
A little over 100 accidents. We have 5 injuries. None of those are fatalities. We have seen various highway closures throughout the state from time to time.
If you don't have to be out, the governor says stay inside where it's warm and you're safe. AP Update, I'm Ross Simpson.